Alright, I am here in a kitchen. I am getting ready to take out these countertops. This is something that I don't do a whole lot of. Most of my work is showers and bathroom renovations. On occasion I get called to do tile backsplashes, and on other occasions I get to do kitchen floors, although I haven't done many lately. This is wood. But anyway, we're going to put tile on this old style countertop. This is back in the day. They would use this Formica countertops, and Home Depot sells them now that don't look like this wood. I mean, everybody knows it's Formica, so it's kind of dated. So they have different styles of Formica now, and I put quite a few in back in the day, back 15, 16, 18 years ago. But nowadays, everybody's doing granite countertops. Granite countertops, depending on where you live, can get very pricey. You know, they can be anywhere from $30, $40, $50 a square foot. So it could easily add up when you're looking at the square footage on a typical countertop. There are some occasions where people do tile on their countertop, and in this case that's what I'm doing, to save a little bit of money. I'm not doing granite. I'm not particularly personally fond of doing tile on your countertop, and there's a few reasons for that. The least of which is the fact that the grout lines, where you're dealing with food and water and different spices and stuff like that, the grout lines can get kind of dirty. Typically you'll see a 4" by 4" on a countertop, and that's probably the worst of the worst. If the grout is sealed properly and care is taken to do cleanup and all that stuff, then it's usually not a huge issue. But as I said, that's usually the worst of the worst, a 4 by 4. You can imagine how many grout lines you'd have on a typical countertop like this. So in this particular case, we're doing 12 by 12, and we are doing marble. The customer has picked out this particular marble to go across. One of the reasons I like the larger tile, as I alluded to before, the least of the problems, you know, with the 4 by 4 is you have a lot of grout lines. Here you have a 12 by 12, so you end up with 2 tile going across. Since most countertops are about 24 inches anyway, the math works. You know, you end up with these grout lines here on the side and then one down the center, and that's all you have. In addition to that, these are going to be smaller grout lines, so always the smaller the better. With the smaller tile, you usually end up with a larger grout line. So, you know, using non-sanded grout with these marble tile is the way that we're going to do this. And again, the customer is going to have to make sure that she seals the grout completely, and in addition to that, sealing the tile. With granite, it's a very, very porous, dense tile. So whether or not you're doing a slab or you're doing pieces of granite, which can get very pricey, it's very dense. So staining is usually never an issue. Heat is not an issue. If you put a pot on, you know, a hot pot on a surface of granite, you know, you're not going to get a burn mark or anything. With a lot of different ceramics and stuff like that, you're going to have an issue. You can end up cracking, or you can end up staining different types of tile, including this type, which I'm not particularly fond of on doing a countertop, but that's what she wants done, and that's what I'm going to do. Again, with granite, it's very porous and dense, and with marble, it's dense to a certain point. With a lot of marble that you have veins, and the veins are the weak spots of marble. And you know, just by virtue of that alone, it's not as dense as granite would be. In this case, we don't have any veins, but it doesn't mean that this tile is really, really hard the way granite would be. So the big deal here is, like with any tile that you would do, whether it be on a floor or in this case on a countertop, you want to make sure that you both put your thin set out, you know, with a notch trowel, and then just by default I always butter my tile. And so what you're trying to avoid is any type of hollowness. The hollowness is going to be the Achilles heel with regard to breakage on this type of tile, because imagine on the floor if you had a little hollow spot or something like that, and you put some weight on there, or you dropped something kind of heavy, then that would obviously break the tile pretty easily, especially with this tile. That's not going to be such a huge issue on a countertop, but it is something to adhere to. Just make sure that you know, you do it properly with enough thin set on both front and back when you set the tile. Anyway, getting back to how this is done, there is some plumbing issues obviously with every kitchen sink. We have a garbage disposal and we have 2 drain lines. I don't know why they did 2 separate drain lines literally into the wall. They didn't tie the 2 lines together. They have 2 separate ones. That's the dishwasher drain line right there feeding into this P-trap, which shares this left side sink. And then on the right side sink where the garbage disposal is, you have a totally different drain line going into the wall, so that's kind of odd. Another oddity is the customer does not want a garbage disposal anymore, so the particular drain line that feeds that garbage disposal, which is the top one there, is going to be capped off, and all we're going to deal with is this bottom line right here, and we're going to do it on the same side of the sink. And the reason why is because the sink that she bought, you can't see it from the picture, but it only has 1 drain line going in it. It's not a, even though it's the size of a double-sided sink, there's no border in between, so it only has 1 trap here, or drain rather, and that's on the left side, which coincidentally is the side that we're going to keep. So anyway, what I need to do is shut off the water down here at the angle stops and disassemble this whole drain connection setup and get rid of that garbage disposal and block off that that line back there, and then come up to here. I can pull the sink out at that point. A lot of this stuff I'm explaining because I don't have a second hand or a second person, as it were, to videotape all the demo on this. So unfortunately, I have to kind of explain it rather than show it. Once all that's done, I can pull out the sink. Oftentimes these sinks have brackets, so there might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 brackets on this side, and then maybe half a dozen or a dozen even, depending on who installed it. And the brackets are up underneath the lip of this, so you have to get up under the sink the way a plumber would do, upside down, and you have to back off all of those brackets that hold this sink down. Normally that's the only thing that holds it down. Some guys will, when they set a sink, they'll have an extra part of the lip here that goes on the counter. They'll run a bead of caulking along here, and then they'll put the brackets on. And sometimes they don't put brackets on at all. They just run the caulking and put some weight on it till it dries, and that's all they do. So I'm not seeing any caulking here. I'm assuming it's just brackets that hold this sink down, and that's how it will come out. So once all the plumbing issues are sorted out, taken care of, then I can get over here. This is a drop-in stove. This will probably be the hardest portion of this tear out, because this drop-in stove may have to come out for the duration of the rebuild. It's got these little lips that go over the countertop, and it's really hard to see, but I think it overlaps here probably a good part of a ½ an inch, or maybe 3/4 of an inch, because I can see it down there. It's about 3/4 of an inch that it overlaps, and obviously when we take this out, that's not going to work. And then when we build back and everything, we want the tile to be under that lip. And so, as I said, taking this stove out will probably be the most difficult part of this whole process. They're somewhat, I mean, I've taken them out before. Some of them are easier than others, so I always anticipate worst case scenario, just so that I don't get angry and upset when I can't get things out. Anyway, getting back to the tile, this tile, for symmetry purposes, the customer wants to have full pieces here, and then whatever the cut is over here, that it will be what it is. Again, for symmetry purposes, she doesn't want to follow any type of grout line along here, because the problem is when you're bringing 2 countertops together with a 12-inch tile, this is where the tile really should start. Let me grab this other piece, and I'm going to explain why I have a darker piece in a minute. To avoid any discrepancies on cuts when these tile meet each other, typically you'd want to start at this corner area. And the reason why is because that way, whatever this cut is, if there is a cut, like I said, it'll probably be 11 inches or 12 inches, hopefully. Same as over here, and then same down this way and same down that way. The problem is, if you start over here, then any type of cuts that you have, even if it's a sliver cut, will end up down here, which some people don't mind, but I usually like to start on the end and work my way toward that way, say if I'm doing a backsplash, so that all my cuts are down there where it's not seen so much. The problem is if you start down here or on the other end and try and work your way, by the time you work both ends to this point, you're going to have a messed up thing going on because these cuts won't necessarily match each other. So anyway, to avoid that, what the customer has decided is that we are going to go ahead and do it this way, and we are going to negate any type of grout line matching going on back here, and then on the edge of here we're going to forget about any grout line matching over here, as well as this little part back here. So that and that portion won't match as far as grout lines go, because we're going to do this as a separate entity by itself, this is a separate entity by itself, and this is a separate entity, so we're not going to worry about matching grout lines. What she's more concerned about is the symmetry of the tile, because she has a design worked out where, for example, where I start here and then I have the tile next to it, tile back here and back here, there is going to be either a 4 or 5 inch square of that cut out to inset into here. So if you can imagine a triangular cut here, the next tile, the next tile, the next tile, and then there's going to be like a diamond. I say black, but that's actually green. So there's going to be a green diamond sitting up here. That's what she wants as a centerpiece to these 4 tile. That's what's going to happen here as well, and on this side, and then on this side. And so the focus is to get all that symmetrical, so that she has these diamonds going on everywhere you see them. Not so much as it is the grout line matching up and all that stuff. And so getting back to this tile, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut either a 4 or 5 inch square, depending on what she wants, and pop those right inside these centerpieces, and that's how it's going to look. In addition, this is going to also be her backsplash. So if you can imagine that tile standing up on end and going up all the way around, it's going to go probably just to this level here with the cabinet and just level here with the cabinet, but that is going to be her full backsplash. The same design feature is going to go in a 4 or 5 inch cut where these tile meet at every corner. And then in the center over here, I was crazy enough to give her an idea for this little backsplash area, and she liked it, and that's what I'm going to end up doing. So the idea is we're going to cut off maybe a 2 inch strip along with this tile and kind of frame out with that strip going around in a square like that. In the center of that strip, we're going to do one of these tile, I believe, diagonal? No, we're going to do one of these dark green. So the dark green is going to be a square strip that goes all the way around to kind of make a frame, and then the dark green is going to be center, and then these are going to be cut with the excess pieces. The triangular pieces will go here, 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 and here, and then of course all this tile will follow suit along the backsplash. Taking these electrical outlets, the plates and all that stuff out, there's a couple ways to go about that, because obviously this tile, by the time the thin set and everything is set on the walls here, these outlets aren't going to be deep enough. So some people go the hard way and they change out the boxes and put bigger boxes in, which requires rewiring, and that's a big hassle. But they actually have extension screws, so if you take off this faceplate here, what you'll see is the 2 screws that hold this outlet in, usually about 3/4 of an inch or so is the length. But you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you can get extension screws that, you know, as long as you want. You know, I get them usually about an inch, inch and a half long. So that takes up the difference. So the outlet itself, minus the plate, the outlet itself actually extends out far enough, as far as you want it to go. And you put those extension screws in, and there's little tabs on the top and the bottom that hold itself up against the tile that we're going to put in. And that's how that works out. And then she is going to go with some chrome outlet covers after the fact. So that's how it's going to look. Oh, the dishwasher. There's no need to do anything with the dishwasher. On every dishwasher there are 2 set screws at the top here, There's one up there and one up there. And literally, that's how the dishwasher is anchored in to every countertop. If it's a granite countertop, then they use some epoxy, and rather than screws, they just epoxy those tabs that go with the dishwasher instead of screwing them in. So we're not going to do anything with the dishwasher other than take those screws out, which releases the dishwasher from the countertop. And the countertop itself comes out by virtue of usually caulking. There's a lot of caulking that goes on, especially this backsplash. You see it's about a good ½ an inch of caulking there. So you just run a razor knife, or however it's easiest to do, along the back of here. That releases it from the back. Usually the countertop, because it is Formica, they don't really have a way to screw it in, and where they would be screwed in, if at all, would be along these cabinets here, usually down here, which is how I'm going to do it eventually. Excuse me. So I'll probably be taking videos showing the process of putting it back, because I'm doing tile on here. The eventuality will be when the countertops are out, I put 3/4 inch ply. So I'll cut my 3/4 inch ply the size that I want it over here. Typically I'll cut out on here. I probably won't. I'll probably just bring it up to there and scab in a piece, and then another piece going along here, and then one contiguous piece going along here. Then I'll get the dimensions on my sink, and I'll scribe out exactly where I'm going to do the drop in for the sink at, and get my circular saw, cut out the square that I need to, and then I'll be able to drop in the sink at a later point. Once that's done, then I take ½ inch Durarock, and I screw down, I don't nail down, I screw down the plywood, and the plywood will actually get screwed down to the countertop itself. The wood of this countertop, there's going to be areas, like if you can imagine, where these are separate countertops, where they come together. There's going to be enough wood along there and enough wood along here where I can screw my plywood down to the countertop. Once the plywood is screwed down, I get my ½ inch Durarock, and any backer board will work, but I just prefer Durarock. So the Durarock will also be cut and screwed down to the plywood. Some people want to spread out some thin set onto the plywood and then put their Durarock down on top of that and then screw it down. If you want to, that's fine. I may or may not do it. I'm not really concerned about, it's not a floor, so I'm not too concerned about that. It's not going to stay. If it makes you feel better, then go for it. A little bit of overkill. Once that's done, then you would prep the top of the countertop same way as you would a shower. Use some type of red guard or some type of waterproofing membrane on top of the Durarock. It's not really necessary to, but red guard or another product like that is cheap enough, and you're going to have water saturation onto the tile and thereby onto the grout line, so why not use the red guard? If you don't use it, it's probably not a big deal, but again, it doesn't hurt. So once the Durarock is down, I'm going to red guard, seal the whole thing with the red guard, and then I'll start doing the tiling. This particular tile, because it's going to be going on the edge here, needs something along the front of it. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. You can do it with a piece of wood strip, decorative wood strip. You can do it with, there's probably a dozen different ways that you can cap this off. What we've decided to do, there's a place where I can get these tile bullnose. I don't have a bullnosing apparatus, or a blade for my tile saw. They're quite pricey, and I wouldn't use them that much. But anyway, this guy will bullnose just about any tile that you bring to him. So what we're going to do is get a 2.5 cut done, because by the time we get done over here, the 2.5 will bring us almost to the drawer top, all the way around. So a 2.5 cut with a bullnose on one edge. So that bullnose will actually hide the edge of this tile. This tile gets set first, and then the bullnose will go right here with the rounded part being there, and it'll be nice and solid looking with the 45s going over here and on the back. In addition to this little area, which is going to get done also, because we don't want to do all that and then forget this, which the customer actually did. I just brought it up the other day that I forgot to do this, so that's going to get done as well. And this is probably about a 3-day project. Again, some of the drying time takes up that process because of the red guard, etc. But otherwise it would probably be a 2-day project. So I'm going to get started on the demo on this, and I'll be back as I make progress on it. Alright, I am done with this kitchen countertop. This granite actually turned out pretty nice. As I said before, I wasn't really feeling it, but I guess I am now. The whole process probably took me a couple days, probably 3 or 4 days, just because of the drying time and all this stuff. The thin set, as you saw, everything was red guarded around where the sink is at. The thin set is specific to marble and granite, which I adhere to. It is a modified thin set, and I adhere to that because I don't want any issues ever coming up with this stuff. So spend a little bit more and get your proper thin set on this. Anyway, you just trowel it out where the Durarock was at. You trowel out your thin set using a notch trowel. I always butter my tile. I back butter, so you put some thin set on the back of the tile as well as on the surface, and then you put it in and kind of move it around. This is 16th inch spacing, although the spacing looks larger because there's little bevels on the edges of these tile. But anyway, and it is non-sanded grout, of course, because you don't want to scratch the surface of this stuff. The non-sanded grout really should be mixed with not an enhancer, but there is a what is it called? It's an additive, and the additive will make the grout stronger. These bull nose that I got cut turned out really well. I like them. They're not polished on the surface, but when the customer puts an enhancer on there, it will give it a sheen. They can get polished, but the guy that I go to doesn't polish them. So that's it. These tile are all set flat, so if you run your hand across them, they're nice and even with all the rest of the tile. So it turned out pretty good. Did a 45 cut down here, 45 cut down here, and brought it all the way to where the dishwasher is. I had to notch out for the dishwasher, and of course the dishwasher got, there's 2 screws that anchor it in, so that got anchored in from below to the plywood that I put in. And then I installed the sink, and this is a nice sink. It's an all-inclusive one. I don't know. I don't really agree with the customer on this aspect. She decided to not have the garbage disposal anymore, even though one could be put in here because it's a single drain sink rather than the double that she had, and I offered to put in a new garbage disposal here, and she declined. So what I did under here, where the garbage disposal power, you see that cord over there that used to be the garbage disposal feed. I basically just bought a junction box, and fed that into there, put wire nuts on it, and attached it to the wall. I didn't want to cut it off and put it in the wall because the next person that owns this house may in fact want a garbage disposal. So that's why I didn't do that. You remember there were 2 plumbing fixtures. They were separate here. So this one that fed this sink got capped off. And that's about it. New supply lines. Always put new supply lines on. So this job is done, and as I said before, I wasn't really feeling it at first. Oh yeah, the new plates that she purchased, I put the plates on. I wasn't feeling it at first, but it didn't turn out too bad. I even got the stovetop, flush with the tile, so that was great. And I'm out of here and on to the next job. This was different from what I normally do, so it was kind of a pleasure doing something different.